All right, well, let's go ahead and get started with the webinar. So today I'd like to welcome Julia Bramante, the chair of the Cannabis Chemistry Subdivision, which sponsors this webinar. To give a little introduction on Julia, she currently serves as the lead scientist at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment's Marijuana Reference Laboratory. Prior to entering that role, Julia was instrumental to the success at Gobi Labs, which is one of the first certified marijuana testing labs to open in Colorado following recreational legalization there in 2014. Additionally, she serves as the chair of the CASP Microbial Contaminants Working Group at AOAC International. So the presentation that Julia will be giving today is Cannabis and Professionalism meet at the world's largest scientific society, which is the American Chemical Society. So we are excited to have Julia on today. Before jumping into the presentation, I'm just going to give a few brief CANN announcements. So definitely stay tuned for Journal Club updates coming for 2020. We have these sessions at the end of every month, either moderated by Jehan Marku, who's a co-founder of CANN, or myself. As I mentioned, I chair the publication committee here at CANN. Other current news, we are hosting a networking event after the Emerald Conference in San Diego tomorrow night. So that is from 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. at the Tavern in Coronado, California, which is right next to San Diego. Other news, we are hosting 4 cannabis-focused sessions at the upcoming American Chemical Society National Meeting in Philadelphia from on March 25th and 26th. One of those symposia is the 2nd annual ELSOHLY Award Symposium. That's a really great award. It honors one of the greatest cannabis scientists and one of the original CANN members, Professor ELSOHLY. And he actually has spoken on our Journal Club recently, so make sure to check that out on our YouTube page if you haven't. And finally, we are accepting abstracts for 6 CANN sessions at the fall 2020 ACS meeting coming up in San Francisco. So the deadline for those submissions is April 6th. So if you plan to submit, or folks who might want to, please do get those in here over about the next month. And if you're not already a member of CANN, make sure to join. I'd also like to thank our sponsors, our silver level sponsors, Heidolf North America, as well as Perkin Elmer, and our platinum level sponsor, Carbon Chemistry. So thanks so much to them for supporting Cannabis Chemistry Subdivision and Cannabis Science. So with that, I would like to pass the mic over to Julia to start her presentation. Julia, I'm going to can you go ahead and share your screen?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Nigam, for the great introduction, and thank you all for joining us today. I greatly appreciate you taking out of time today to hear a bit about CANN and everything that we have been doing and are looking forward to continuing as well. And with that, I'd also like to extend a thank you to my esteemed colleagues at the Cannabis Chemistry Subdivision of the American Chemical Society and also the Division of Chemical Health and Safety. Everything we're going to discuss today truly would not be possible without the effort and dedication and passion of each and every one of them. So with that, I'll just get started. So today's presentation is on cannabis and professionalism as they meet at the world's largest scientific society. So with that, I want to give just a quick overview of how the ACS came into existence. So the American Chemical Society was actually founded way back in 1876 when 35 chemists saw a need for there to be a professional scientific society dedicated to chemistry. And so they met at the School of Pharmacy in New York City and founded the ACS. So then shortly after that, they began publishing in the Journal of the American Chemical Society, also known as JACS, in April of 1879. And as they began to accrue publications in that journal, they actually also extended and created another journal specific to the different abstracts submitted from various technical experts in their field. So by 1930, the ACS had already grown to 18,206 members, which is pretty, I think, impressive. And then on August 25th, 1937, the ACS was actually chartered by the US Congress. They were actually seen as a scientific advisor, in a sense, to the US government, and were, in a sense, tasked to look into various aspects of the developing scientific industry, to look into the safety and also the composition of different chemicals and potentially even substances that the government was trying to decide how to approach and regulate. So there's actually quite a bit of history to the ACS that has some crossover to what we're experiencing now in the cannabis industry, as I'm sure many of us are aware. So finally, now here we are in 2020, and the American Chemical Society has over 152,000 members, and those members are from all over the globe. So of course, the ACS is based in the US, but it does extend globally as well. So what are ACS's focal points currently? So some of their claims to fame are that they are the leading publisher of authoritative scientific information. So again, JACS is very highly revered and sought after when anyone's trying to seek highly reputable and useful information in chemistry. They are very dedicated to the empowerment of members to advance chemistry. They provide a broad network to conduit connections between various disciplines of science. And notably, they hold 2 ACS national meetings per year. There's, of course, many other regional meetings and events that are held, but those 2 ACS national meetings are by far the largest gatherings of the ACS, and they foster the dissemination and sharing of highly technical knowledge, as well as just creating a space where leaders in various facets of chemistry and other scientific fields can connect and network. And so I just pasted there a graphic that the American Chemical Society provides regarding their impact by the numbers, as it says. So I thought those were some pretty interesting metrics. So they have over 200 branches worldwide, and that includes local sections and international chapters. They have over 3,000 current and former ACS scholars, 8,700 or more publications by chemistry Nobel laureates, and over 130 million registered chemical substances. So now we'll get into a bit of CANN history. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to join us today, but I did quote Jay Han here, as he is one of the founding members of CANN and also a leader in the cannabis space. So he quoted back when CANN was first formed within the ACS that the membership of the American Chemical Society deserves praise for recognizing the need for scientific leadership on cannabis. And I thought that was just so concisely and well put, because this is definitely something that's needed to be filled in the cannabis space and continues to require growth and expansion into different networks and also areas of expertise. And so I think it's just so profound that, again, this long-standing entity, the American Chemical Society, that's also one of the largest scientific societies in the world, has chosen to adopt cannabis under a subdivision. Of course, we'll get to this in a little bit. We'd love for the Cannabis Chemistry Subdivision to become a division eventually, but even that step was a really big statement. So CANN was originally founded in 2014, and on October 8th, 2015, the Division of Chemical Health and Safety, who is now our parent division, voted to form the Cannabis Chemistry Subdivision. So they accepted the application for CANN to become a subdivision under their purview, and they've been absolutely paramount in helping CANN grow and succeed within the ACS over the past few years. And so with that, there were some key founding members of CANN at that time. So of course, Jehan Marku, as we mentioned here, and then I'd also like to give a moment of thanks to Ezra Pryor and also Melissa Wilcox, Justin Fischetic. They all were also a part of that founding process, and so we would not be here today without them. So where are we today? We now have over 700 members, and we're continuing to grow quite rapidly. So it's been really incredible to be a part of that. So who are we in terms of what we stand for? I just wanted to share here our vision and mission statements that our executive committee formed in this past year. So our vision is serving as a pillar of legitimacy for the cannabis enterprise through promoting scientific advancement and empowering community. And our mission is advancing the cannabis chemistry enterprise by driving scientific innovation and integrity. As you can see, those are both very closely linked, but the mission is just applying to what we focus on in our day-to-day more in the current state. So with that, what are some of our more actionable initiatives related to that vision and that mission? We touched on a bit of these earlier with the announcements that Nigam gave at the beginning of the webinar, but some of our most notable prospects and deliverables we give to our membership and also the scientific community at large is our technical programming. So we have a full slot of technical programming at each ACS national meeting, which occurs twice a year in the spring and in the fall. And so we really try to hold ourselves to a very high caliber and standard when we structure our different sessions, and then also garner various presenters and accept abstracts for those sessions. So if you come to our ACS national meetings, or perhaps you've already been, you would know that our talks tend to be very technical, and we try to bring in as much leading new research in the field as possible. In conjunction with that, we also have been working hard to develop our publications. So in addition to funneling various writers to cannabis publications in the field and creating partnerships to ensure that those content exchanges are fulfilled, we also, in the past year, published our inaugural proceedings, which are a compilation of the presentations that are given at our ACS national meeting, and those are compiled into a publication that we then distribute to our membership and, again, wider networks as well. So I'm going to give some more detailed updates on that later on, but just wanted to put that in the purview. Then also some of our biggest initiatives are national and international outreach. So we work hard to create a platform of communication to our various members, both nationally and internationally. And in order to help build those bridges, we've also recently established a Chinese section, and we're working on a European section as well. We also have developed our own scholarship/award, and we're looking to opportunities to create more under our scope so that we can assist scientists in presenting their work and having a stage to voice their opinions and their insights. Then also we focus on networking. So we hold quite a number of networking events throughout each year, and they're usually linked to various cannabis conferences and technical programming. Then another strong focal point of CANN is professional development. So we work hard to professionally develop not only our executive committee members, but also our membership and anyone who comes our way if they so choose. And then finally, of course, one of our biggest overarching goals is ACS division status. So it would be very profound for us to become an ACS division, and that's something we are continually working towards.
Well, thanks for sharing, Julia. A couple questions. You had spoken about the CANN mission and vision. Can you speak to what inspired those?
Yeah, absolutely. So those were developed through some think tank sessions with the executive committee and volunteers that we were working with at the time. So we had a couple of meetings where we got together and we just first brainstormed core values and also key initiatives that we all aligned on. And then we looked at the commonalities between them and sort of started formulating what we really think we best represent and want to provide to our community. And then we took that and we aligned it with the American Chemical Society's overall vision and mission and core values as well, so that we felt like there was a lot of congruency between our parent society and also our own operation.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. And another question you referenced there, the executive committee. Can you speak to what is that group and how are they involved with CANN and how it operates?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that would be great to delve into a bit. So our executive committee is comprised of the chairs of our various different committees within CANN that drive all these different projects and initiatives that I just spoke to. So that includes our programming committee, publication committee, public relations committee, scholarship committee, membership committee, Chinese section, senior advisory committee, and safety committee. And let's see, am I forgetting one? I think I hit them all. If I forgot anybody, I apologize. But those are some of the key committees underneath our executive committee. And then of course we have our officers, so that houses our secretary, vice chair, chair, past chair, and then our treasurer by connection with our parent division.
Got it. That's very informative. It sounds like there's a lot of different inputs going on with the work at CANN. So really exciting to hear. So we don't have any other questions in this moment, so please do delve into some of these initiatives.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so first up, I just wanted to highlight some details with our technical programming for our upcoming ACS National meetings. So again, we have our spring 2020 ACS National meeting in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that will take place from March 21st to the 26th. And so at that meeting, we have 4 total technical symposia that we will be presenting. So we have Women in Cannabis, the 2nd annual ELSOHLY Award Symposium, the Next Generation Cannabis Delivery Beyond Smoking, and then finally, Micro versus Macro Dosing, Medical versus Recreational. So we're really looking forward to the various talks that will be presented in the symposia at the meeting. So if you're able to attend, I strongly encourage you to make it to those various sessions. And then in fall of 2020 at the national meeting in San Francisco, and that will take place from August 16th to the 20th, we have some proposed session titles that are currently open in a call for abstracts. So I believe NIGM will copy a link so that if you'd like to submit an abstract to one of these sessions, you can do so there. But I'll just run through those really quickly. So there's the advancements in analytical testing, compliance, environmental concerns, and consumer safety, advances in cannabis extraction and purification, cannabis and the FDA, preserving public trust and demanding accountability, cannabis soil to oil, how cannabis sativa L products go from the benchtop to the marketplace, dual perspectives, cannabinoid dosing and pharmacokinetics, and finally, Mind the Gap, specialized cannabis formulations.
So Julia, a couple questions on the technical programming. First one is, what inspires these sessions? Where are these ideas coming from and who's kind of organizing these?
So these are overseen by our programming committee chair. So that's Amber Wise. So she is the one responsible for basically ensuring that everything we need to take place in order to have our programming set for the various national meetings and other meetings we may partake in is really all set up for success. So Amber is incredible at that. And she also is responsible for interfacing directly with session organizers. So those session organizers are often the ones that create these session titles and then submit them to our programming chair, Amber, for review and then approval to be posted as a call for abstracts. So once the organizers submit these and the call for abstracts is released, it's then the responsibility of the organizers and of course also the programming chair and the rest of CANN's executive committee volunteers and membership, if they so choose, to recruit any speaker that they think would fill one of these sessions really well. So that's kind of how all of that operates.
Got it. That makes sense. I'm curious, as you know, ACS and CANN seek to offer professional development opportunities to its members and affiliates. Follow-up question: are there any special requirements to become a program or a session organizer?
So in order to become an organizer, you really should probably be a CANN member and also an ACS member. But beyond that, there really aren't any other requirements beyond getting connected with us and volunteering your time and just putting in that dedication. So if you're interested, we really encourage you to reach out and volunteer because we're always trying to get new people involved and fresh perspectives represented. So.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. I certainly have developed a lot by working on some of these sessions. So yeah, I also would echo what you said there. So we had a couple other questions, but I'll save those till the end if you want to keep moving through some of these initiatives that CANN is working on.
Yeah, absolutely. I can continue and then we can fill in questions as we move along. So, all right. So next up is our slide on publications. I'll give a shout out to Nigam. Nigam is our publication committee chair. And so he's been working diligently to drive our various publication efforts forward. So here we have a few little thumbnail images of the proceedings of the Cannabis Chemistry Subdivision from our spring 2019 symposia in Orlando. So again, to reiterate, these are the proceedings of the different presentations that were given in our technical symposia at that meeting. And so then we give the presenters an opportunity to then publish their work in a cannabis publication that we partner with so that it can be disseminated further and shared with a greater audience. So this was really successful in our first go around, and we're very excited to announce that we are going to be publishing our San Diego proceedings in analytical cannabis in March. So our plan is to have that published right in advance of our ACS national meeting in Philly. And so just keep an eye out for that. It will be available as an electronic version. So we'll have a PDF that we'll distribute.
Yeah, no, I definitely just want to echo what you're saying. It was great working on this. Really excited to put out the proceedings from San Diego. And I think these, as you said, just provide a great opportunity for folks who can't attend the meeting to get a high level of what we're working on. And I hope too that it encourages folks to attend and be there with us to gain a greater depth of understanding and learn from these sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So the next up is I wanted to just share some highlights from our Chinese section and then also to note our forming European section. So our Chinese section was first formed in 2019 and the chair of the Chinese section is Hong Ma. And so he immediately took on the role and started setting up partnerships between us and some counterparts in China to try to, again, build that bridge, create a line of communication, and then also try to have mutual sharing of information at our conferences or symposium. And so On July 3rd and 4th of 2019, Hong Ma and also Jaehan Marku traveled to China to the International Hemp Industry Forum in Harbin. And Jaehan gave a presentation there that was very well received by their Chinese counterparts. And so we're working on, again, having some of our members potentially go to China this year for another conference. And also we would like to look at the possibility of bringing some Chinese researchers here to present their work and interact with CANN at one of the ACS national meetings. So we're very excited to continue efforts in that realm. And then in conjunction with that, we've also seen the need to form a European section. So this is in progress, but we do anticipate that we'll be able to form this year. And so again, its main initiatives would be very similar to that of the Chinese section, where we would be working diligently to build connections between European researchers and scientists, and of course, CANN and the greater cannabis scientific community here.
So Julia, we're getting a question. Folks are asking if there's any active CANN members or affiliates in Europe right now.
Yes, there are. There are quite a few. And in fact, some of our active members even come and present at our ACS national meetings. So one is Laura, and she was in San Diego with us and presented there, and she will be included in this upcoming edition of the proceedings. And she will also be joining us at the ACS national meeting in Philadelphia. So we're really excited for that. Another counterpart we worked with closely is Guillermo Moreno Sons. So he has also worked with us to try to build partnerships in Spain. And so we plan to try to continue that as well.
Yeah, I do recall Dr. Laura Mercolini's presentation in San Diego, some really interesting stuff, and personal takeaway was just absorbing the different ways that cannabis is viewed societally as well as in the academic lab in these different countries. And it's interesting that not only across these, state and international boundaries do we need to translate the science, but sometimes the descriptors we use. So really, really great learning opportunity there, and I can't wait for the European section to come to fruition.
Yeah, absolutely agree. All right, was that the only question regarding the Chinese and European section?
Yep, so we got for right now.
Okay, wonderful. We'll move to the next slide. So here I want to highlight the ELSOHLY Award, and then also highlight our development committee, because I recall that is one that I don't believe I iterated earlier, but they are of course integral to our success. We could not drive any of these initiatives without our hardworking development committee chair, Ezra Pryor, and our various volunteers within that committee as well. So with that, I'd like to just give some more information about the ELSOHLY Award. So this is sponsored by Heidolf North America, and it is granted for excellence in the field of cannabis science. And so it is the first of its kind, and it really seeks to recognize leading cannabis scientists and simultaneously provides a space for them at the ACS national meeting to present their work and have that distributed to a greater audience. Part of the award is that it grants up to $1,500 per awardee, and that's intended to assist awardees in any costs associated with travel or registration to attend and present their work at the ACS national meeting. So this has been really successful. This is the third time the award will be granted. The first year it was under a different name, and then last year was the first iteration of it being named the ELSOHLY Awards. That was our first annual ELSOHLY Award Symposium, and this year we will be having the second annual ELSOHLY Award Symposium. So we're really excited to present this to those recipients and then to continue granting this to leading scientists as we move along.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this session in Philadelphia, and just wanted to see if you could share, as we speak about professionalism, cannabis, not, Professor ELSOHLY is just such a leader in that space in general. Can you share a little bit about kind of why we've named the award after Professor ELSOHLY, and kind of just high level what he's kind of worked on over time?
Yeah, so ELSOHLY has been closely in correspondence with various members of CANN over the past few years, and has been extremely supportive of CANN and all of our initiatives. And of course, he is a leading researcher in this space, and also is recognized by the federal government to study cannabis. So that is a very unique situation. And so in that regard, we really view him as being a leader in a number of different facets. And so it was an honor that he was really willing to have the award named after him so we can carry out that legacy. And so as you can see in this picture, he came to the first annual ELSOHLY Award Symposium and gave a presentation and helped distribute it to the awardees as well. So yeah, it's exciting.
It is, and I see he's wearing the CANN swag too. That's pretty cool. So the follow-up question regarding the award, can you speak to the cycle that it's on so interested applicants can just be aware of when they should apply and such?
Yes, absolutely. So applications are due on July 1st each year, or by July 1st each year, I should say. And so then those applications are reviewed by the ELSOHLY Award Selection Committee, and the award will be granted at the following spring national meeting of the ACS. So it's a little bit less than a year from the time of application that if an applicant were to be a recipient of the award, they would receive it. And so we just developed a new application process for that we can either put in the chat box for you to navigate to so you can send in an application, or reach out to our scholarship committee chair and vice chair, Kyle Boyar, directly, and I'm sure he'd be happy to assist you in sending the application materials to the right location. So.
Cool. Well, thank you for sharing those details. Yeah, so feel free to continue on to our next initiative.
All right. So here we have our networking event. So this has been kind of a key facet of CANN really since our inception. So we typically have a handful of networking events each year, and we try to schedule them at relevant cannabis technical and scientific conferences, as well as at our ACS national meetings to hold in conjunction with our activities there. So on the left here, you'll see a picture from New Orleans. So that was when the ACS national meeting was in New Orleans in the spring of 2018. And we actually ended up having a cannabis chemistry parade throughout New Orleans that left from right outside the convention center. And it was a great success and got a lot of attention, actually, even from the American Chemical Society. And because of this effort, we were also nominated for an ACS Chem Luminary Award. So that was pretty great to see and a lot of fun. And I'd like to give a shout out to Ezra Pryor for organizing that, because that was entirely his idea, but he even got a live band to march with us. So it was really a unique and great experience. And then on the right here, we have an image from our networking event at CSC Portland this past fall. So as you can see, that was really well attended, and really it's just meant to give scientists a space to meet and connect and talk casually, but also about similar interests and initiatives. So then I also wanted to highlight in the center here that we have a networking event scheduled for tomorrow, right after the Emerald Conference. So if you're attending the Emerald Conference, we encourage you to register at the link listed below, right in the middle of that flyer. And I know that our space is limited right now. We've almost run to capacity. So if you want to attend that, I highly recommend you register soon.
So Julia, a couple questions about CANN networking, just from a high level. Who is it that makes up the CANN network? What kind of folks are in the network and may come to these type of events?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's actually quite varied, which makes it really, I think, fruitful. So our membership is primarily comprised of both academic students, so we have quite a number of undergraduate and graduate students, and then also professors, usually who are either tied into the cannabis research space or just interested in it. Then we have quite a number of industry professionals, which is a bit unique, especially within the entire ACS as it stands now. So we have industry professionals from testing facilities, from extraction facilities, manufacturing facilities, cultivation facilities, really pretty much every facet of the cannabis space is represented within our membership with regard to those different technical aspects. And then other than that, we do have quite a few people who may not even be involved in cannabis, but they do see it as an industry in a field of science that's really valuable and very interesting. And so they tend to engage and just try to keep up with what's happening. So
I have seen that. I really enjoy that actually when, especially during the technical sessions, when we get interest from folks who didn't necessarily come to the ACS national meeting to attend a cannabis session, but see it on the program or just happen to be walking by and can't help but pop in and sit down and start to learn. So I do agree that I've seen that happen at the networking events as well. So follow-up question, and you touched on this a little bit. Is this something that students should attend? And if so, what value might a student gain or someone interested in getting into the industry gain from one of these events?
yeah, I would strongly encourage a student to attend, an aspiring scientific professional to attend, because I think that there's a lot of really valuable connections to be made. And it also gives anyone in attendance the opportunity to interact with us directly. And I've found, and I think other people within CANN could attest to this, that volunteering within CANN is one of the most valuable, I think, actions you can take in order to really promote yourself in your career or your career path, to try to find either a job connection or just a community of like-minded professionals that you can look to for support. CANN has been truly, and of course I'm the chair, so I'm biased, but I really can say with absolute honesty that it's been the most valuable networking and also professional development space I've found. So.
Yeah, no, I support that. And I too began with CANN through volunteering, just through helping disseminate the call for abstracts and then presenting and organizing. So yeah, I fully support that. Cool. So shall we continue to the next topic?
Oh, absolutely. So that is right in line with what we were just discussing. So again, one of CANN's initiatives is to provide a space for professional development. And so with that, again, volunteering is really helpful in trying to seek professional development. Also getting involved, I think, is a really great way to practice and develop leadership skills, and then also find mentorship, but then transition to becoming a mentor as well. So that's something I really wanted to highlight because I think mentorship is also one of the most effective ways to engage various stakeholders in any community and to really foster people on their journey through either finding a job or finding what their passion is and how they can seek it out once that's discovered. I know that personally I've been very grateful for the incredible mentorship I had throughout my life. I had a number of different people who really shepherded me into research and getting involved in science beyond just sitting in a classroom, and that really paved the way for me to explore my interest and kind of have the opportunity to also build upon it as well. And so that's something I know I personally have put a lot of thought into wanting to give back by being able to mentor, hopefully half as well as the mentors that I had. But this is something that's been expressed as a really profound initiative from the various members of CANN as well. So it's really common that we'll hear from either members or volunteers that they'd either like a mentorship matching program or would like some way for us to create a mentorship space so that we can connect people who may have some crossover or something to be gained from one another. So that's something we're working on currently.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm in full support of that. I think especially in the cannabis space, it can be a little bit hard to break into, and I think something like that would be very beneficial to our members.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Great. And so lastly, we have a slide regarding our ACS division status. So I know this is something I already mentioned in the presentation a couple of times, but I just wanted to speak to why we want to become a division and what that really means in the grand scheme of things. So if we were to become a division, that really enhances our access to various resources, which in turn increases our capacity to provide technical resources and also to really expand upon the outreach and the network that we already provide to our membership. With that, this would also continue ACS's legacy of leadership in the scientific space. I think it would be a really strong statement for the ACS to have a permanent technical division dedicated to the field of cannabis chemistry and science. And so it would be really great to see that happen in the near future. So that's what we're working towards.
Yeah, I support that, and I think we have a lot of momentum. And that actually brings up another question that was posed earlier on in the presentation. So you talked about the growing membership, and the direct question is, what do you see us contributing to that growth for the membership, and then plugging in with that, is that contributing to this goal of moving towards division status?
Yeah, absolutely. So of course, when considering whether or not a subdivision can become a division, the American Chemical Society really takes into account the membership of that organization. So having a wide membership base, of course, is important if we were to become a division, because that is what really creates our network and our platform for sharing information, and also driving people into the American Chemical Society to take advantage of the resources that the ACS and their various technical divisions offer. But it also is what helps support us to ensure that we're able to continue to operate and to be successful within the ACS. So definitely something that's important.
Yeah, I agree. And another question there is, so ACS has many divisions, and I'm curious how, so with something like cannabis that is so, it permeates so many other parts of life and parts of science and industry, does CANN have plans or initiatives to plug in or collaborate with some of the existing divisions? I mean, there's some that seem obvious, agronomy, for example, or analytical chemistry, for example. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually already have quite a number of partnerships formed with some other technical divisions in the form of co-sponsorship of technical symposia at the national meetings. And then we also recently attended a leadership institute that connected the various technical divisions, and CANN was able to share some resources with them that we utilize within our own internal operation to help streamline our processes for things like social media posting. And so supporting the other technical divisions is something we're really passionate about and really want to ensure we continue to explore and to put effort into as we move along this road of trying to become a division ourselves. I think mutual support within the ACS between divisions is really important. And so that's a strong value that we are working to drive. So that's a good question.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how that evolves.
So we have some further questions that we'd like to ask you with the remaining time. And there we go. It looks like you're ready for them. So thanks so much for sharing all this detail on CANN. I'd like to just take a little bit of time to ask some questions about your personal journey getting into cannabis and kind of some of the current roles you hold in the analytical realm. So to start, can you just share what it is that brought you into the cannabis space and to work as a scientist in that space?
Well, that was quite a long journey. I don't know how far back I should go, but let's see. I guess I'll start with what brought me into chemistry. So I was working in a research facility at the Anschutz Medical Campus in Denver. And so it was actually an HIV research laboratory, and I was mostly doing immunology work there. And at that point, most of my research and studies had been focused on biology or anything with biological applications. And I was actually in the break room one day, and I picked up a book that was all about various different natural plant medicines and the exploration of extracting the active components in each of those plants and then either synthesizing them to make what we know as a lot of our over-the-counter and pharmaceutical drugs of today, or looking at them from a more natural whole plant-based medicine approach. And I was really fascinated by it and thought that connecting chemistry to the study of medicine was something that was really important and really resonated with me at the time. And that's a lot of what inspired me to transition my focus into chemistry. And so then at that point, I actually switched my major and my studies to chemistry. And then after that began working in an organic synthesis research lab. And in that lab, I was working on developing novel approaches to new tuberculosis vaccines, essentially. And so I guess medicine and that field was something that just was always naturally a focal point of mine. And so then when I was looking for a job in the industry, I had graduated and I knew I didn't want to go into oil and gas. I knew I didn't want to go into the pharmaceutical industry. I wanted to explore something a bit different. And that actually also coincided with the mandate of the recreational legal market in Colorado. And so at that point, I found myself with the opportunity to be one of the first employees at one of the first cannabis testing facilities in Colorado, and worked at that lab from its very beginning days and then for years on out, and just continued my journey through the cannabis space from there. So.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see how you actually jumped fields after getting into plant medicine, and I think it's a very interesting topic, and happy to be in this realm myself. But to delve into some of your more current work, you've done a lot of interesting things with the state reference lab in Colorado, and actually. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Colorado is a leader in this space in setting references for analytical testing for cannabis by the state. So I'm curious, can you share a little bit about your work there and kind of just the work that Colorado is doing in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the marijuana reference laboratory exists in Colorado by way of a statutory requirement. So it was actually written that there needs to be a reference library within the cannabis space here. And so in order to create a reference library that houses reference technical documents with relation to analyzing cannabis, and also potentially some technical SOPs surrounding homogenizing and sampling different cannabis products, there needs to be a laboratory in order to support those documents and their creation. So The reference laboratory was formed in 2017, and the first employees were hired in fall of 2017 to begin in-depth method development and validation for the various required tests in Colorado that are implemented within the private testing facilities, but also with regard to the various cultivation, manufacturing, and dispensing facilities here as well. With that, we are also tasked with identifying various areas that maybe need to be explored a bit more, or maybe that we need to look into testing if we aren't already requiring certain compounds or products to be tested. So those are our main objectives. So just a lot of method development, validation, and looking to constantly optimize and implement best practices wherever possible.
And that's actually interesting transition here. One of our attendees, William Scanlon, has posed a question. So he is a fellow microbiologist. Julie, I know you've done some good work in the microbiology area. He's asking, his question is, do you see the future of pesticide testing needing a more representative sampling procedure for federal level acceptance? He's saying on the microbial level, 25-gram sample size seems appropriate if it wants to mimic USP testing requirements. So can you speak to that, and then maybe to elaborate anything about this kind of comparison between the state level standards you were just speaking to and maybe the federal level standards to come?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So that's a great question, William. Sampling is certainly always the elephant in the room. It's something that's been very difficult to grasp and to balance and to really figure out the best approach for various different analytical techniques. But I would say that my opinion personally would be that yes, we will see sampling requirements change in the future. And whether that's the number of samples that are taken and then composited into an overall sample, if that's a matter of taking just one larger sample size, I do anticipate that there will be an overall larger sample that needs to be represented for various different tests. I think definitely in the microbial testing realm, but then also even for various chemical methods, we'll just need more representative sampling overall in order to really capture what may be present in an entire lot of either cannabis flower or a manufactured good. It's really important to ensure that you have statistical confidence in your sampling in order to then have confidence in the results that are being disseminated. So it's an interesting topic, definitely.
Certainly. I like how you called it out as the elephant in the room. Also, follow up from William. He's asking how can folks get more involved in CANN activities? So we've talked about networking events and volunteer opportunities. Is there anything else that you would suggest to William or other folks listening on how to get further involved?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just engaging in our various other activities like our webinar series that we have going on now. Also, if you're interested in just connecting with us, I really encourage you to reach out to us directly, follow us on social media. We're very active on those different platforms, and often we'll post about our upcoming networking events or any conferences that we will be at, or even members of CANN will be attending and presenting at. I think also staying in tune with our various publications will be really important, and hopefully we'll be expanding in the future, but we're really hoping to reach a lot of people and create a lot of conversations around that space.
Great. And another question coming up from the audience is regarding the ELSOHLY award. We're getting a question: are there qualifiers for applying to that? Do you need to be a student? Do you need to be in industry? What are the qualifiers for applying for the ELSOHLY award?
So there aren't any requirements in terms of your professional or academic status. So if you're a student, you're encouraged to apply. If you work in the industry, you're encouraged to apply. Whether or not you have a graduate degree, you can still apply and be a recipient. So the scope there is more focused on the technical aspects of the abstract that you submit in your resume. But we really want to get a full perspective on all aspects of the industry. So if you're involved in cannabis science and you want to apply, I really think you should. So.
Yeah, and I think you make several great points there. One that I'd like to reiterate is that chemistry, interestingly, just like cannabis, touches so many different aspects of life and academia. So we really are open to folks doing cannabis science. As long as there's a chemistry connection, if you're doing something interesting, if you're doing something novel, if you're doing something that's driving this, as we call it, the cannabis chemistry enterprise forward, we want to hear from you, and we'll certainly consider the application. Julia, no surprise here, the audience is interested to hear your opinion more on some of this analytical testing. So we've got another question here. Do you anticipate pesticide and microsampling mimicking each other on a federal level?
Okay, I think so. From that question, I'm interpreting that you're asking if both pesticide and microbial sampling in the cannabis space will come to look more similar to other industries for sampling for pesticides and microbials at a federal level. I think I'm gathering that.
Yeah, there's a little bit of ambiguity in the phrasing, but yeah, please proceed with answering the question that you've posed.
All right. Well, I think definitely sampling will move towards hopefully some statistically and evidence-based models, and I believe that some of the FDA guidelines surrounding that have been based off of evidence-based models. And so in that sense, I think there could be some similarities as we move forward.
And what about the, we're getting a clarification here from the audience. What about the protocol itself? So we talked before about the sample size. Do you see that, can you speak to the protocol for sample size between those two for microbials versus pesticide testing?
So in comparison to one another, the sample size, so I think that if a method by which representative sampling is achieved, then that would be applied to perhaps many different applications. So I could see that creating some similarities between the two. I don't know if that's exactly what's being asked. In terms of sample amounts, my answer to that would be that for something like a microbial presence absence test, if you had, let's say, to use a real example in another industry, a 25-gram sample size, you would analyze that entire sample. So you would use the entire 25 grams in your actual processing of the sample to then determine whether or not there's the presence of a contaminant in it. For something like pesticides, you of course most likely wouldn't be able or want to extract an entire 25-gram sample, but you would go through a validated homogenization protocol of that 25-gram sample to then subsample from it in order to then gain some type of scientifically based result on the pesticide levels within that overall 25-gram sampling amount. So I hope that answered the question a bit.
I think so, and it's interesting that we can't help. I mean, you do amazing work as the chair of CANN, but you also do a lot of good work as a scientist and analytical chemist. So I'm not surprised that the audience is curious to hear your thoughts there. So I just want to, we're coming up on time here. I just want to pose one more question. I think it's a good one for you as the chair of CANN. So, what advice would you give to aspiring scientists or chemists seeking to get into the cannabis space?
So I think definitely just don't be shy to reach out. If you come by, let's say, a research paper that you think is really fascinating, and you look up a research group and discover what they're doing, don't be shy to send an email and express your interest and talk to them. I think also getting into spaces where there's other cannabis scientists is, of course, integral in making those connections. So shameless self-plug, come to networking events, come to technical programming, whether it's at an ACS national meeting or one of the many, many cannabis science based conferences that are popping up around the nation or even globally. I think there's a lot of opportunity to connect with people in all facets of the industry. So just trying to put yourself out there is one of the best ways. And then also, I think it's pretty common to see a lot of activity on social platforms, and there's a lot of webinar series like this one. And I think that's another great way that you can become apprised of what's happening in the industry and where it may be most fitting for you to try to get involved.
Well, thank you, Julia. Would just want to thank you again for speaking with us today. This talk on cannabis and professionalism and what's going on at ACS has been really wonderful. Also thank you to the audience, all our attendees, and all the folks who have asked really interesting questions today. So with that, we'll go ahead and conclude until our March session. So thank you all for attending.
Thank you. Appreciate it.